Hello everyone, I am back again. Welcome to TestFlix 2023. I'm glad to see you all as a part of this great initiative from the Test Tribe. Thank you for giving me your precious time in hearing my experiences and the challenges as a part of a test engineer when I was in large enterprise organizations. Well, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say practices and fanciful things that you get to see in large enterprise organization, you won't get to see anywhere else in the world. So this talk makes it all the more interesting and fun to take a ride along with me for the next 15 minutes. I think it's a good time that we dive and know my four main unique experiences that I had when I was part of a large enterprise organization. So it's time that I start with my first unique experience. Networking is the oil. Maneuvering yourself in a large enterprise organization need a meticulous planning and a calculated move on day-to-day basis. Technical skills can surely help you keep afloat and deliver your task more efficiently. Knowing people and networking will take you a very long way. 2009 was my first one-on-one with my manager, and he gave me the first tip, which I can never forget even for today. He said, "Sowmya, you're great. Your technical skills are great as well, and you're learning good. But if you do not have people behind you, the technical skills only take you to a certain level, and beyond that, you'll be frozen if you don't have enough people backing with you. So start investing in knowing people, keeping them as your allies, and grow your network." It is so important, and his words still rings a bell in my ear. So networking is just not about the team that you're working with or some scrum teams where you're associated with. It should go beyond your particular role and function. As a test engineer, for you, the information is the key. That's the currency which you're going to trade. Be it your promotion, be it your testing, influencing for a bug fixing, or having to influence for the prioritization for with your product owners, or even for the time when you may have to do a cross-functional switches. Networking definitely going to help you. So keep this in mind. Invest time in meeting people, getting to know them personally and also professionally. Understand what goes into their role. Be curious to understand the challenges that they may have to face. Maybe when the day comes, you have enough information to take the decision. So now it's time to move on to my second experience, learning on a slow burner. Steady and unrushed are the main characteristic of a large enterprise organization. Like I already mentioned, there are several functions involved to make a company grow. In large enterprise organization, every role is broken down to its core. For example, in a test engineering, there are separate unique test engineers associated with a scrum team to perform only testing on the newly built features. And the further to this, an end-to-end testing with test automation, maintenance of a healthy pipeline, etc., is to be performed by the regression testers, which is a bunch of testers sitting apart somewhere. And then there is subject matter experts like accessibility testers, translation testers, security testing, performance testing, data governance and laws. And there is a center of excellence built for each of these roles. As a test engineer, if you have to grab these learnings and skills, you have to really stay long with the company, invest time in learning every role at its core, and do moving on to the next cross-functional role. And it takes a good amount of time to call yourself as a full stack QA, maybe, where you can confidently say, I know several other types of testing because I have been part of the center of excellence, to jump from one to another. So here the first learning that you have to get is learning is slow. It's a farming technique. You have to plow the land, sow your seeds, water it, wait for the right time for it to grow before you can cut. Learning is slow, but you have to hang around to reap the benefits. Let's look at my third unique experience. Quality Sherpa, Quality Patrol, Data Specialist. Have you heard of these roles outside anywhere? You may not have. Large organization is also very famously known for their fancy roles and names and titles. So you may not be surprised if you get to hear a very unique role from somebody who's working in a large enterprise organization. Sometimes these roles are made to look larger than life simply because these roles are given some additional powers of asking questions or maybe to follow up or send emails, which make it look so important. But in outside market, these roles are seen as a small task as a part of a large function. So be very careful. If you're a test engineer, part of a large organization, you see such fancy roles, it's good within that ecosystem. But by and large, if you want to establish yourself confidently for the wider market to be absorbed at any point in time, then you can't sustain in this role. Take a very meticulous and calculated decisions when you do the cross-functional shifts. So for example, let me say quality Sherpa was a person who used to pick up the reports at the end of every sprint. He or she used to make sure that the KPIs are met, the dashboards are updated, a follow-up mail is sent, and that is all the job they used to do. But if you want to recognize yourself as a quality engineer, doing such role may not add much of a value on your resume. So here's my word that please do not be attracted to these roles. Be curious to know what goes behind these roles. Pick up these as a part of a short-term initiative and then move on to something more mainstream. But do not get established in this role too deep. The another downside of these fancy roles is they don't have any career growth or the place to be at. At some point, you see yourself being stuck in this abyss, not moving anywhere. So be very careful when you pick up the roles and do a thorough analysis of how this fits in the wider market and how this role is seen and what are its probabilities of career growth. It's very important. Time to move to the next unique experience that I had, which is the quality audits. Quality audits, in my perspective, is a complete sham. Not required at all. But still, many large enterprise organizations feel it's necessary. And I can't blame them. You know why? Because the whole organization is built on such a complex matrix and structure with so many people involved. There is no innovative way of finding the progress or any other way of finding the quality of the development that's happening, and they land up finding this quality audits. And this is a borrowed concept from the manufacturing domain, by the way. So an auditor's job is to come up with the KPIs or the metrics that matters, which according to them matters, and which can describe the quality of this application that is being built. It may be number of test cases, type of bugs reported, number of high, number of low, when something was closed, when something was opened, how many production bugs, the coverage of your test cases as a part of your traceability, automation coverage, pipeline health. It can be various KPIs and metrics depending on the team, the application, the type of business you're dealing with. In my experience, the first year was a very terrifying experience. I actually was very frightened. My legs were shivering when I received a mail that there will be a quality audit happening, which was complete surprise as no one had let me know that there is this ritual that they do at the end of the year. And I was running around floors to floors, meeting my friends, trying to ask and trying to learn how these reports are taken, what matters to them, what are these KPI metrics, and how is this I'm not aware, and things like that. I somehow got through that phase. And then for the next 6 months, I took time in understanding the entire process. Networking did help me there. So I reached out to the people, especially my seniors, trying to understand what this whole ritual is about, what goes behind this custom, what KPIs matters, and what are the systems that is involved where these numbers are pulled out from. Slowly, I started to realize it's not so inaccessible. It can be changed. Just a command line code, just a tweak in some things, and then you will be able to generate the report the way they want. You're happy, they're happy. So my second year quality audit was like a smooth sail. I was riding high tides without any fear. So you see, if you're a part of a new organization where there are some quality audits, all you have to do is reach out to the right people, get to know the system where these data are pulled, and master the art of tweaking the data. Is it a good practice? No. However, quality audits and the way it's practiced is also not so reliable enough. These are the processes that we have to live with and support because we are part of that organization. Take it with a little pinch of salt. I wish I can go on with my unique experiences on and on and on. However, keeping the time in mind, we may have to move on to the next section, which are the challenges. It shouldn't come as a surprise, which is the custom tools. Large enterprise organizations are very well known for having some in-house custom development to support their internal processes, be it the bug management tool, test management tool, or the test cases design, mm, um, test automation, or usability testing, be it any of these. You get to see a lot of custom development happening. So there is a team who develop the tools to help the internal stakeholders like us to make use of these tools, right? It's great to have that tools because it homogeneously fit with the entire ecosystem, and you don't have to worry about some integration scenarios or about creating a test data, because they would have considered all these things in mind when they design the framework. When you try and build from an external framework, it is highly discouraged. And even if there is an external tool being used, it's usually a licensed one, considering the security and other aspects of the organizations. Now, working on a custom tool is great, but I wouldn't recommend to keep focusing only on that. If you're working on a custom tool or an internal tool in your organization, spend your personal time in learning what is happening out there in the market. Reach out to your friends and industry peers outside your organization to know what tools and frameworks they are using, what are the processes they are following. Meetups, conferences are a great places to exchange such information. It is important that you're well aware of the current trends and practices outside your organization. You feel more confident in case of any unexpected situation. So build this confidence ground up. Keep updating yourself, especially from a process and tooling perspective, and also the frameworks perspective, so that you don't miss out on the present needs. Alrighty, let's move on to the second challenge, which is keeping up with the legacy. No matter which corner of the application will be put into or you will choose to go, you will bump into legacy code sooner or later. Any enhancement, feature development, new features, strategic initiatives, name it any fancy name, legacy code is there to haunt you. Something that is built for 30, 40 years, keeping up their revenue and customers happy cannot be changed in a year or two. And it's going to linger around for a long time. So, legacy code you have to make peace with, especially test engineers. It's a challenge when you have to integrate two different worlds, one which is extremely modern with the new technologies and one which has been built everything ground up decades ago. You have to identify those areas which cannot be automated and hand it over to the teams which can provide support or make a case to have an additional resources to help you test these things on a day-to-day basis. If you are facing a major challenge in test data management or creating the test data to support your end-to-end flows, you have to identify the most plausible way and the most important risk related areas which needs a special attention and start working on the strategies of how this can be achieved, either by testing by yourself or you have to leverage the technology making use of test automation and do it. Most likely, sticking to my previous slide, which is a custom tool, these tool usually will take care of these situations, but most likely there is a reason that it can also be missed. Making a case for the internal tool development team and letting them know your team's needs and requirements can also be a good start. So, when you have to work with the legacy, you just can't escape. It's a Halloween which is gonna stay. So, are you ready to hear my third challenge, which is the web of systems? There are variety of systems and environments which will be spinned up for various reasons and purposes. One of the major reasons that I have heard is also about testing an application in different configurations. So this poses a great challenge for test engineers who are involved, even if it is for a Scrum test engineer who has to test this newly built feature across different configurations, across different interoperability features, and then you have many systems to keep tracking about. Let's not forget the quality audit I just mentioned, where there are various KPIs and metrics being built and spinned around these many test environments. It just runs crazy. Sometimes you find yourself doing the same task all over again, and that's exactly what drowns the motivation of test engineers because at the end of the day, they feel they're learning nothing. So, in these cases, the best way is to have a conversations with your manager and especially the line manager to establish what is your unique expectations from your role. What would you keep as a prior one and what would you keep as a prior two? Setting a very clear expectation and a common understanding lifts away the burden of doing something which you don't want to. And maybe, like I already mentioned, large organization will always have a resources to fill in and somebody can step up to do some other role while you can invest your time in something that interests you the more. All that it needs is a communication. So don't fear, open up, but even before you do the communication, first do an introspection to realize what is it you are expecting from this role to learn and how long you want to do this. By setting up the expectation for yourself, you'll be able to do a very clear communication with your line managers and build your goals against it. Otherwise, you feel yourself doing the same routine task without anything new. And that's not so nice to have, isn't it? So let's move on to our fourth challenge, measuring everything. The obsession of measuring everything is just runs insane in these large enterprise organizations. Like I already mentioned, there has not been any other innovative way of measuring how something is working. We always fall back to the traditional methods of numbering and quantifying everything, including the happiness or the user experience quotient of it. And it runs too deep in layers in large organizations. I have not seen this obsession in the small or medium sized organizations. Well, in the conversation it comes and goes, but not to a point that we look at every number, every sprint, in every sales report and things like that. So this obsession runs too deep, and it's a part of the DNA in the large enterprise organizations. So you have to familiarize yourself that if you're a part of a team in large organization, you have to move around and maneuver with the numbers, learn to quantify things, be innovative, or be in a position of suggesting innovative solutions for these things. Can I change the course of action? Not really. Remember the quality auditors I mentioned? Somebody sitting across geography making their own KPIs and metrics and rules and guardrails. You just have to follow. You're one other person in the organization who has to follow this entire the structure and the guardrail that's been defined. Can you get away from it? For sure if you leave the company, but I highly do not recommend it. These are small parts of the organization which is there, and the main idea of sharing these details is let you know that these things exist. It's a part of the culture and it's a part of the company, which not much can be changed from the position where you are. If you're a test engineer, a quality engineer, a performance test engineer, or even maybe a QA engineer or a QA manager, because these decisions are taken at a very high levels. And unless you are in a very influential position, things cannot be changed. Having said that, here is my last slide. Thank you so much for your time listening to me.